If you want to know how to create the pages and the cover for such a scrapbook album and how to do the binding for it, then stay tuned and I will show you exactly how it works. Hi, here's Max, and today we will create an album that is a little bit bigger than the last one. You will need a big sheet of white plain cardstock, preferably in A2 size, which will last for 3 pages. Our album will have 6 double pages, and so you will need 2 of these sheets. In addition to that, you will also need design paper. I'm using some leftover pieces of some BoBunny papers and cutting them into 4 pieces of 6 by 6 inch. Overall, we will need 24 of these squares. Next, we will be cutting the white pages in 13 inch by 7.5 inch. As I already said, you will need 6 of these. Then I'm scoring each of these at 1/2 inch on one of the short sides. This will be the adhering flap for the pages, and we are cutting the corners diagonally already. The rest of the page we are folding in half and ending up in a page that is 6.25 by 7.5. The 7.5 side we are scoring at 1 inch and give it a good crease from both sides to make it flexible. If we are now cutting the opposite edge with an edge punch, we are ending up with a page that is 6.25 inch square with a 1 inch flap at the side for the binding. We are now adhering the design paper squares to these pages with an 1/8 inch white border around them. I will show you only one page to save time, as the procedure is the same on all the pages. When we are done, the pages should look almost like this. If you already know me a little bit, you can guess that I will sew the pages later on, but first we create some photo mats. The pages we have done so far will build a pocket that can hold a photo mat inside. I am using 3 different colors for these, but you don't have to do that and go with just one color if you like. I am using another border punch on the sides of these photo mats. They are longer than the pages and will stand out of the side of the pockets. We are also adhering some design paper to these, but first round the corners by using a corner chomper. The punched edge will not be covered with the papers, as it serves as the embellishment of the white pages. Here we will have a border around the design paper square that is slightly smaller than an 1/8 inch. So for me, it's now time to sew the pages. As usual, I want to say that this is my personal preference and you don't need to do that. But if you do, then please take care to secure the threads on the photo mats with a small die cut on the edges. But what all of us have to do now is to close the pocket and glue the pages together on the side that we left for the binding. If you don't, you risk that the photo mats will slide into the pockets much deeper than we want them to do. Now we mark the pages at 3/8, 2 1/8, 4 and 5 3/4 and punch a hole at those marks. You can copy the marks by simply using the first page as a template. And by this the pages are done and we can move on to the cover, which will definitely be the more complex part of this album. You will need two chipboard pieces that are 7 1/4 by 8 1/2, which we will cover with the same white cardstock that we already made the pages from. But first we are putting some double-sided tape on the edges of the chipboard pieces. The white cardstock itself we are adhering by using the matte medium gel. If this will be put on in a thin and even layer, it will prevent the white cardstock from building bubbles later on. To bring some color onto the cover, I'm using some scraps that match the other papers. As you can see, I already used that in another project and tore it off again. And this is a wonderful opportunity to reuse it. I'm using the edge punch I already used on the pages, but this time all around the paper. As I do not have a matching edge punch, I'm eyeballing the corners, and if it's not quite perfect, I'm cutting it into shape with my scissors. If you have an edge and corner set, go ahead and use it, it's much easier. But now you also know how to do without. As soon as the cover is dry, we are cutting the corners, but leave 1/8 of an inch of the white cardstock to fold in later on. The other short edge we are cutting directly at the chipboard, as it will be covered later on. For the flaps we are using double-sided tape again and burnish it very good with the bone folder. And the edges of the chipboard we already did before. And now we remove the cover paper of the tape and wrap the flaps around the chipboard. I found it works best and it's more even if you slide it over the table. The excess we left at the corners will now be folded inwards after we put some additional adhesive onto the paper. Again, use the table to make the edges tight and even. I'm using the tape runner as well on the edges of the design paper scrap and adhere the rest with liquid glue to the covers. And now we need two more pieces of chipboard in 1 inch by 7 1/4. This will be part of our binding later on, and so we also punch the holes we did on the pages as well into these. If the chipboard gets stuck in the punch, just use some scissors or a paper piercer to remove it. For the second piece, we are again using the first as a template. Now we punch some scalloped circles out of the cardstock pieces we used for the photo mats inside. We need 4 circles from each color and add another 4 from an additional color that matches the others. We will be using these to cover the holes of the binding, as we cannot use eyelets this time. For the spine we are using another chipboard piece that is 3 3/4 by 7 1/2 that we also adhere to white cardstock. We are using double-sided tape all over the 2 pieces that we just did for the binding and even cover the holes. Then we adhere them at each side of the spine, leaving a gap between the pieces that is twice as wide as the chipboard is thick. We again punch the edges of this piece and mark the holes with a paper piercer. Then we turn the piece around and pierce the holes with a pencil. Because we also covered the holes with tape, the paper now sticks inside them. And even if this is not working as expected, it doesn't matter, as we will anyway cover the holes with the scalloped circles. Now we are adhering the covers to the spine by using liquid glue on the punched edge and double-sided tape on the edges of the covers. Please take care to also leave a gap here that is twice as wide as the chipboard is thick. otherwise you will end up with edges that are cracking and breaking over time. Now press the pieces really good together and do the same with the other side. Afterwards we are adhering the excess of the spine to the inside by using the same technique as we did on the other cover pieces. For the inside of the cover we are cutting another piece of 12 by 12 inch design paper in half. But because the cover is bigger, we will need a trick here to fully cover it. So I cut a piece of white cardstock and used the border punch on it again to create a pocket on the lower part of the inside cover. To position them, we are laying both pieces onto the cover and adhering the white paper piece loosely to the design paper. Do this on both sides and turn the two pieces around to put some tape at all the edges. To make it easier to adhere this long piece to the cover, only remove parts of the cover paper from the tape. By this, it does not stick to anything else that is lying around. On the cover, all edges along the gaps need to be covered with tape, as well as the holes of the binding again. And now adhere the inside to the cover, section by section. Also here we first mark the holes by piercing them before we punch them with the pencil. And again we are covering the holes with the remaining scalloped circles. Now carefully score the first gaps with a bone folder before you slowly fold the covers up. Do the same at the next gaps, but this time fold them outwards, as this is the direction where we open the covers later on. The spine and the pieces with the holes will now create a chest that we will use for our binding. I will be using ribbon for this, which is one of the easiest ways to do the binding, and in a word, ideal for beginners. We will be threading it through the holes in the cover and then add 2 plastic beads to each of the ends. I am using beads in the same color as for the photo mats inside the pockets. Once this is done, we thread the last page first. This will be followed by 2 more beads in the color of the photo mat in this pocket. Finally, we end up with the last page and thread 2 more beads onto each end of the ribbon. And now you can see how the beads create some space between the pages. And now there's nothing left to do than threading the ribbons through the front cover. If the holes are not wide enough, just use the paper piercer again. And if the ribbon is too big, it might help to wrap the ends with some tape and make them slim and tight, as you know from shoelaces. When we manage to get them through, we are securing them with a knot on the outside, and afterwards we cover this knot with a bow. And as you can see here, the satin band is so slippery that I had a little fight with the bows. But finally, when this is done, we are cutting the ends diagonally and are done with the basic album. And even if the pages are already looking nice, I will show you next week how to embellish the cover and the pages with some self-made flowers and other things. But for today we are at the end, and if you liked watching, please give me a thumbs up. If this is your first time here at Color Your Life, I would love to have you subscribe to this channel, because I have new crafting videos for you every week. I have listed 2 links to the most recent scrapbook albums here on this page. and in the info box that is now popping up somewhere. I also would be pleased if you leave me a comment and just tune in again next week. I'm looking forward to having you here again. Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.